Good.
Hi, Henry.
Hey Mel, how you doing?
I'm very well. I'm very well. Today, I want to talk about universal basic income. Recently the government made another payment in United States, $1,400 for per person, I can say.
Yeah.
And it brings a question: do we really need this money? And is this money really helping people out? What do you think about it? What do you think about, in general, universal basic income?
Well, Mel, I think it's conditional. I think it works really well in Europe. I think it cannot work in Africa, places like Africa at the moment because
Mhm.
of the economic structure there. But Europe has a very highly educated society. They've managed to, over centuries, accumulate quite a lot of wealth and property. And so that structure works there. I think the United States is somewhere in the middle. It's
Mhm.
not quite, the unsustainability of the African economy, and it's not quite, I think, uh, able to sustain a universal basic income at the moment. So I am not quite in the camp of being supporter yet.
Mhm. Before our conversation, I had some chance to do a little research. I have observed that it is already in practice in United States. There's a town called Stockton in California,
Mm.
and they are making an experiment for 2 years. They have been paying $500 per family. I think they just finished the experiment. They started in 2019 and finished in 2021. And in these families, what they have seen is pretty much positive. They've seen some of the unemployed people found jobs with the support of this money, because $500 is not a big amount. But if you are looking for a job, you can buy let's say, a CV writing service. Someone can improve your resume, or you can buy a career consulting service, and it can help you to find a job, and you will no longer be dependent a universal basic income. And some families also had chance to pay the utilities. For example, phone bill is very important, because if you don't have phone or internet connection, it means you are out of touch. You can't find a job, you can't make any application. Maybe in these type of conditions, for unemployed people, or for the people who are under a certain income level, they can benefit from this. But not everyone. I mean, United States is already a very rich country. I mean, of course, nobody is going to say no to a $500 per month or $1,000. Extra money is always good. People can think like this. However, do they really need it? This is the question.
Yeah, yeah. I take my hat off to Stockton in California for doing that experiment.
Mhm.
I think more and more cities should try to do that and prove that it is possible,
Mhm.
and that the majority of the population won't take it as an opportunity to just stay home and not try to
Mhm.
start a job, a business,
Mhm.
or go and look for work.
Mhm.
um, I am here on an island, and my experience here is not as positive, because I would say, because of the pandemic since last year, uh, and even a little bit before, because Hurricane Maria hit in 2017, I think. Yeah.
Mhm.
So there's been some form of government assistance that has been handed out to people for the last
Mhm.
4 or 5 years.
Mhm.
And it's not a good experience for us here as business owners, who
Mhm.
really help to drive, small businesses drive most of the economy.
Mhm.
And for us, it's a real struggle to get people to come to work, because they get more money to stay home. So,
Mhm.
I'm not completely against universal basic income, but it is conditional.
Mhm.
I'm also afraid of, the United States has been a great innovator for a few centuries now, and a lot
Mhm.
of that is driven by hunger. You know, uh, you can say literal or figurative hunger. the Steve Jobs, and they were all hungry. They were all driven to innovate and create. And then you have other societies like, I'm not judging Europe, but, where not a lot of innovation has come out, or not as much. And so I'm worried a little bit, will universal basic income fundamentally change the nature of the American innovation and design?
I have a different opinion, especially when it comes to innovation in the United States. I believe a special type of support has played a very important role in flourishing the innovation, and it is called garage. Because if your house has a garage, it means that you can start a business without paying a lot of expenses. You don't need to rent a production place or an office. You can start what you do in your garage, and including Steve Jobs, Jeff Bezos, and thousands of millions of different entrepreneurs started their own business in a garage. Garage was a kind of support. In Europe, most of the cities, I can say, they live in apartments and they don't have garage. And this is one of the reasons to start their own business. Recently, the co-working spaces.
I don't know. Can you really say that it all comes down to garages?
Yes, because in a garage,
all innovation comes down to garages.
Let me tell you. It's not just innovation. I'm also talking about entrepreneurship, because you may not invent something unbelievable in your garage, but you can start a business because your garage is decreasing the cost. But let's continue to discuss.
But Facebook and Google wasn't developed in a garage. Like, you need a garage for physical.
Let me tell you, Google was kind of developed in garage. The founders were part of Stanford University, and they were
their garage was called Stanford University.
Yes, because they were able to use the facilities and sources of the Stanford University. If you don't have a supporting system, it's difficult to become an entrepreneur. There are two things that I want to share with you. During my research, I have seen an interesting finding. In Canada, in Ontario, they did another experiment. Canada in general, as you know, in comparison to the United States, income equality is much more better than the United States. So they have already money. I'm talking about
where
Canada.
Is this?
Ontario. In
Canada.
Toronto,
yeah.
They have, they did another experiment for 2-3 years. And this time, not $500, not $1,000, but they paid $2,000 per family, especially for couples, like $24,000 in a year and $48,000 in 2 years' time. And guess what? What happened? They, not all of them, but most of them turned into entrepreneurs. They were able to use and spend this money for their entrepreneurial ventures. But there's something I want to say that I agree with you. I think how to use money is a function of a mature and cultured person. For example, Africa in general, or Porto Rico, since they are, these countries or these states are kind of
emerging economies.
So they're hungry for anything they can use. They don't have the system, education, and all other ingredients that can support entrepreneurship. They're just using the money to stay at home.
That's true.
Yeah. And there's
unfortunately.
There's another interesting example from Alaska. I discovered that since 1980, every family in Alaska is getting $1,600 a month. No question asked.
Wow.
All families. And what do they do with this money? This is, they're not using this money for entrepreneurship, or if they are using, I don't know. But statistically, we know that these people are saving the money. 3/4 of money, like 75% of the money, are saved in the banks. So if they want to start a business, for sure they have capital. Because if you are accumulating this money for years and years, and every 1600 times 12 probably makes like 24,000, something like, I didn't calculate in detail, but it should be more than $20,000. So if you are saving $20,000 or $15,000 in a year, it can help you to buy a house, to start a business, etc. But if we compare Alaska with Puerto Rico, I think the experience and the results are quite different. In Alaska, they are saving. Yep. In Puerto Rico, they are using not to work. In my opinion, universal basic income should be for the people who are unemployed or who are in really need of starting a job. Starting a business. I want to start a business, but I don't have enough money. And I'm working right now, and if I stop working for a company, so I won't be able to pay my bills, etc., rent for 6-10 months until the new business bring money. So I am kind of supporting the universal basic income, but not for everyone. It's not universal. It should be for some people. But I also understand your point. It is not going to work everywhere. Maybe in Europe, maybe in Canada, maybe in Alaska, maybe in the future in Puerto Rico and some other.
Well, I think what it sounds like, Mel, and I like your idea of this. Fundamentally, businesses come out of what one can call innovation hubs, whether it is a garage or whether it is a university. And if you can create a space like that in different economies, and especially in emerging economies, where young people can feel safe for having the basics covered, but then the space to be able to create new products and services. And that would really be the best thing that emerging economies could do, is we're going to provide universal basic income for a certain group of people. These could be people currently at university or shortly after university, maybe 5 years after university, to give them that sort of garage, let's see what we can make experience. But so I think there are ways to do universal basic income, and it's not necessarily a blanket program, like you would have in Europe, where every family or every household. So I think, that's a really great idea. The selective, targeted universal basic income.
In Thailand, if I remember right, they also use universal basic income for targeted populations again.
I'm making lots of notes here.
Thailand is also an emerging economy, still developing. And I think there are urban parts of Thailand, and there are also rural parts. And rural parts probably they are not making as much as money as the people in the cities. So there's an immigration. People are coming from rural parts of Thailand to cities, and when they come, it's hard to find a place to stay, pay the rent, find a job right away. Maybe they will need 6 months of time to adapt to the city, to set up their systems, etc. And Thailand used this money to help for the people who are immigrating from rural parts of Thailand to the city centers. And I think it makes sense. But of course, I agree with you again. The system is very open to abuse. I mean, you can play with the addressing system, etc. But I would like to believe that maybe 5% of the people or 10% of the people will do that, but maybe 90% of the people will use it with the original purpose. I hope so.
No, I agree. Like I told, I'm not sure if you remember the story of the housing that was built in Africa, in South Africa in particular. There were, and I'm not quite sure what percentage, but there was quite a few people that, instead of staying and living in the house that the government built for them, they rented the house out.
Mhm,
So I suppose you could call that innovation and
mhm,
entrepreneurship. But yeah, people invent ways of getting around
mhm,
systems to exploit systems,
mhm,
but that shouldn't necessarily be the reason for us not providing.
mhm,
Um, but yeah, I am still on the side of not supporting universal basic income.
mhm.
I would
Maybe
say that
we should
I'm,
take out the word universal.
yeah,
I mean,
targeted.
yeah,
I
it should
like
be,
targeted basic income.
yeah, yeah.
That's what I would support,
Mhm,
is
mhm,
it's targeted to a certain group of people, like you said, immigrants coming into the city or rural
mhm,
populations coming
mhm,
into the city and needing help and support
mhm,
to get themselves off the ground, or
mhm.
university students just finishing or in the middle, and a couple of years afterwards,
In
where
the
they in
third
a,
year or fourth year, they
innovation
may
hub.
start. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and literally build garages for them and say, there's a garage for you, and for the five of you, go and invent something.
Actually,
Yeah,
some countries call them, of course, there's a term for it. We already know it, incubation centers.
yeah,
Incubation centers are available in Europe, in Turkey, in Brazil, in South American
yeah,
countries. So they
uh-huh,
basically provide a space for these young entrepreneurs, so they don't pay rent. They have the computers, they have the internet, high-speed internet infrastructure. They have got access to some laboratory or some kind of production equipments, 3D printers, etc. These
yeah,
type of support maybe is much better than just giving money directly to the people.
yeah, yeah. And of course, some people who are pure capitalists would say, well, we're doing that already. It's called venture capital,
Mhm,
so why are we going to ask the government to pay taxpayer
mhm,
dollars
mhm.
to this type of thing when in capitalism it's done through venture capital?
Oh,
Um,
yeah, that's correct. But capitalism, it is not working perfect. Maybe we have.
well, it depends on who you say that to. If you say that to a capitalist, a Republican, conservative Republican, they'll say it's working just fine. It's not working because you're handing money to people.
Yeah, what
That's
I
when it won't work.
yeah, what I'm trying to say, if you think about the homeless problem in the United
uh,
States, these people weren't born as homeless people. They were part of the society. I mean, in other words, they were working for some companies. They have some level of education, maybe high school, maybe some of them even university graduates. But system didn't support them to pay their bills or rents when they lost their jobs. And the banks came and they took their houses from them because they weren't able to pay their mortgage. So sometimes capitalism should stay aside and government intervention might be necessary before putting all the people onto the streets. Um, Jeff Bezos, for example, his company Amazon has another company called Amazon Flex, and recently, like 3 months ago, they were caught while stealing the tips of Amazon Flex drivers. 60 million dollar tips were stolen by
wow.
Amazon company. I mean, these are like just ordinary people like trying to make their day by driving or carrying some stuff from point A from a warehouse to a customer. And capitalists are maybe they are too ambitious to get all the money. So sometimes we need some kind of government regulation to help these people to protect their rights, or if they are in really difficult position, we need to help them to find a job, to start a job. But the level of support should be maybe limited with, if we are paying cash money, it shouldn't be more than $500. In other words, the money shouldn't be more than to pay the full rent and whole expenses. So the person should think about themselves to find a job, to create some value. I mean, we need to push them to be creative in creating a business or finding a job. but not fully support them. That's my approach in general.
Yeah. I think having tweaked the words that we use regarding basic income from universal basic income to targeted basic income, this applies as well to how welfare programs, as you're talking about supporting the homeless and those people who really struggle to make ends meet. I think when people are going to look back 100 years from now, just as we look back 100 years and we go, how on earth could they have, for medical treatment, bled people? Like, okay, let's stick something in and let them bleed out and they'll be better. I think they will look at us and they'll go, how on earth could they have not targeted some of these programs more efficiently? You're right. And we're using blunt instruments today. And I think as technology improves, the ability for government to tweak and modify, so it would be like a pilot in an airplane. You dial a little here, dial down a little there. And right now it's 2 gears. It's forward or back, and it depends on whether it's Republican or the Democrat who's the president. This is what's happening with the economy the whole time. Give them support. No, take the back to support. Give them support. No. So yeah, I think the future society is going to look at us and go, oh my goodness, did they really do it so badly?
So maybe we can close like this. In the future, we need a well-adjusted, fine-tuned, targeted basic income and a good support for people who wants to create their businesses and startups.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Good. Well, Mal, one of the things that I got feedback on is we better tell people what we're going to talk about next time, because we can't just say goodbye. It was nice talking to you. So what are some of the topics we could actually look forward to? I know you made some really great suggestions, but let's tell our listeners and our supporters, subscribers, some of the things that
I think happiness is a new topic that we can discuss. The definition of happiness has quite changed together with the pandemic. Pandemic is like the Second World War or like 9/11. It has changed about how we perceive a lot of different things. And I think we can discuss what is happening in the United States, what is happening all around the world, especially in the time of pandemic or after pandemic. What is there a substantial change in our definition? What do we do to be happy, or is it just a feeling? Maybe we can discuss on that.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Well, Mel, this was a great discussion.
Okay. Bye bye.
See you.
Talk to
Bye-bye.
you soon. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.